Alright, welcome to the how to build LED taillights for the Mitsubishi Eclipse. I'm going to go ahead and make you guys a quick tutorial on how to do this. This is for the V1 design. After doing quite a bit of these sets, I decided to make a DIY kit for you guys or offer them just shipped straight to your door. So I will go ahead and link the DIY kit in the video description and the full taillight sets, both in the 3 pieces or just the 2 if you just want that. But I basically wanted to do this video to kind of show you guys how to do it. Alright, so here I have a set of OEM 2G 1995 to 1999 Mitsubishi Eclipse taillights. This is basically what you're going to start off with off your car. The first step is to take these apart, but I did want to go ahead and show you guys what's included in the kit and the tools you're going to need for the jobs. This is a 3D printed base that you have to then insert some individual LEDs into. So 2 boards, you're going to get your baggies of LEDs, you're going to get some resistors, which I'll explain to you in a little bit, the LED strips that are going to go within the taillight. Now we're going to be using an oven to take apart the taillights, and we're going to be using a heat gun to take apart the centerpiece, because I've already cooked I think 2 of these by trying them in the oven, and for some reason this plastic is super fragile and it just tends to warp and crush itself. So you have to use a heat gun, get to the mounting points. These on the other hand, you can use an oven for it. You do have to be careful, guys. You could crack these very easily. I've cracked I've cracked a couple sets already just by trying to take these apart. It's not easy. Take your time and just follow the directions. Hopefully you guys have access to some sort of oven. I'm gonna go ahead and empty all this out and set the temperature to 220 degrees. Place the tail light one by one and let it sit in here. Oof, it's hot. Go ahead and let it sit in here for a good 10 to 12 minutes, and then we'll be right back and then start taking apart the lens. Quick overview, I would recommend for you to use gloves. Yeah, these get really hot. You don't want to leave it in the oven for too long, because then you start warping things. The way you take these off is, I don't know if you guys can see these little tabs here. There's like, I want to say like 12 or so throughout the taillights. I usually start on the bottom, start prying at the glue right here. Those are the main points I target. So be really careful. Take your time. If it starts getting hard, put it back in the oven for like another 6 to 8 minutes and just keep a close eye on it. Very easy to crack these. I've cracked quite a few, and I'm gonna go ahead and take my time. Bam. 2 of 2. Now, as far as the tools go, it's going to vary for everyone. This is what I'm personally using just to get the job done as soon as possible. I have a random car battery to be able to hook this power probe. This just basically gives you, you're able to test out the LED taillights without having them to be on the car. Just by giving the stuff power. You don't need this specifically. You could use like a regular test light, but I'm using this personally. Wire strippers, cutters, everything, the basic stuff. I do have a heat gun that I got from Harbor Freight. It was like 20 bucks. And then this is going to basically let you open the taillights once you heat them up. I'm using this one. This one was off Amazon. I'll link it in the video description as well. But you could also go to Harbor Freight, get the little plastic ones. They're not as good, but we'll get the job done. Now, this is a soldering iron. If you don't know how to solder and you want to learn, this is a great opportunity. I do have some core and some paste for the soldering iron. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with one of the plates. As you guys can see, one side has some small indentations. That's the side you're going to push the LEDs through. You go ahead and use the LEDs that come in the kit. Alright, so here we have an individual LED. The way these work is they have 2 sticks coming out of them. One's bigger, one's smaller. The bigger one's usually the positive, and the smaller one's usually the negative. So just keep that in mind. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to make a bunch of groups of 5 within this board here. We're gonna make a bunch of groups of 5, so I'll explain what that is. You basically grab the LEDs and you start putting them within the line here with the positive, aka the longer arm, towards the left side of the board. So push it in all the way down. You guys can now see, I don't know if you can, but the longer arm of the LED is on the left side, and we're gonna keep that order going throughout the board. So positive on the left side, negative on the right side. Just keep that in mind. Alright, so here we have a group of 5. I'm gonna try to show you guys. 5 LEDs on top, 5 LEDs on bottom. We want to do this throughout the board. So we're gonna take it group by group. Once you have these like this, we're gonna go ahead and go to our very first ones and push the positive arms towards the front. We're gonna come towards this side of the board where all the negatives are on this side, all the way to the end, and we're gonna push those down. Those are our grounds. So remember, it's positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. Group of 5 here, group of 5, it ends up being 10 total, but this is basically what you consider a group. So I'm gonna show you guys how to wire these together by basically starting off with cutting all these arms. They're too long, so let's cut these real quick. Giving them around, I wanna say like 1.5 inches worth of space. Don't cut them too short because then they become too short. So this is kind of something that you should end up with. I don't know if you guys can see it through the camera. Now the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and start pushing the arms down. So we want them to touch and make contact. All we're doing here is basically connecting all the LEDs together so that they turn on in sequence. So push them to the side, negative with positive, and then you leave the 2 longer arms between the 3rd and 4th LED alone. Focus on the little arms first. Okay, that's connected. Let's do the bottom as well. And of course, you could always cut if they're still too long. And this is kind of how it should look once you're done. Okay, so you go ahead and grab your resistors here. And you're basically going to tap them in between your 3rd and 4th LED for each group of 5. So get 2 of these out. They look like this. I usually wrap them around 3 times and then cut the excess. And then you need one for the top and you need one for the bottom as well. Looks something like this before you solder it. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on the solder over here, and then you basically solder all the connections together so that they're all attached. So I just usually get a little bit of paste. Also, it's recommended for you to use a mask. I went ahead and ordered one. You shouldn't really be breathing this stuff in. It's all lead and stuff like that, so it's not really good for you to inhale. But you know, I just been knocking them out like this, trying to hold my breath as much as possible. And so all you're doing is attaching the arms and the resistor to the arms. So this is the way I test it. I go ahead and give it direct 12 volts of power. I ground out the ground right here, give it power, and as you guys can see, they all light up together. So that's kind of the purpose of soldering all the individual LEDs together, is because when you put them in symphony like this, they all turn into one. So the whole goal here is to do it throughout the board so you get that strip effect, and then wire them all together so that they're all just one piece. So once it gets power, it basically lights up as your brake. So yeah, the brakes is probably the hardest part. The strips and stuff like that is pretty easy. Everything else is all plug and play for the most part. But yeah, this is going to be the most time consuming. Expect, if you've never done this before, expect to spend a good 6 hours or so per board. That's how I started. I'm a little bit faster now, but this is definitely a skill that requires a lot of practice. That's why I say if you can't do this, just take it to a shop that knows how, or someone that knows how, because it's not quite easy as I thought it was going to be me going into it, right? So I just wanted something different, some cool LED lights, and you know, I ended up realizing that it's a lot more work than it seems. So again, same effect pretty much throughout the board. We're going to keep doing a bunch of groups of 5 and tap them all in together, and yeah, let me get to it. Alright, so I'm going to try to explain this as best as possible. Once you went ahead and pretty much push the LEDs through the board, you're going to have something like this. Obviously we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different groups of 5. So as you guys can see, I already kind of connected them. I'm going to have to go ahead and cut the soldering I did here, because I realized that basically how this functions is you have the block, right? On the left sides you have your positives, and on the right sides you have your negatives. One of my LEDs came out, okay. Basically, in order for all of them to work in symphony, like I said, you have to attach all the positives and all the negatives. So positive is going to touch the positive, negative is going to touch the negative on both sides. It's going to connect these two, and then once you connect all of them like that, you then add wires, which then hooks, so you can basically bridge, or you can jump, right? So you're going to go positive, 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 and connect all the groups, and then you're going to do the same thing with the negative. So negative, 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 negative. You do have to be careful and make sure you get the right spots, but I'll try to kind of show you guys as much as possible so it all makes sense. All you're doing is turning a single LED to work with like 120 of them on this board together. So positives, negatives, hopefully you guys get the concept. Make sure that everything's properly soldered together. Make sure all the connections are solid, because this is going to also shake in the car, and you don't want to basically have these all come apart on the back end, right? So once you get to this part, we are now ready to wire all the powers together and all the grounds together with 2 different color wires. So I'm just going to go ahead and use red and black, red for power and black for ground for demonstration purposes. Measure it out. Cut it. Splice it. Loop it around the positive. You're going to go ahead and solder it in a little bit. So as you guys can see, all the red wires are hooked up together, and those are basically all your power wires attached. So let's do that with the black wire for the grounds, and then we should be able to light all of these up together. We should have bridged all the powers and all the grounds together. I don't know if you guys can kind of see how it's kind of flowing. Let's go ahead and do a quick test. Some go from, could be from any ground, but I'm just going to start from here, and just like that, they all light up. That's how you get your brakes. Pretty cool, huh? Super extensive. This honestly took me a couple hours. I still have to do the other side, so I'm not going to show how to do it. This is basically the gist of how to wire up individual LEDs. And then we're also going to run another power wire and ground wire, which we're then going to have to connect to the harness of the car. So I'll actually go ahead and do that right now, and then I'll show you guys what the final result looks like. So all this does is it allows you to control the whole tail light with one ground, one power wire that we're gonna basically push outside of the tail light. So, damn. Do be aware that your fingers are gonna end up getting poked a lot, so it might be better to wear gloves, but kind of hurts because you kind of stab yourself throughout the process. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side later. I'm gonna go ahead and focus on showing you guys how to put at least one of the taillights together, kind of show you guys how that looks. Here we have an OEM taillight. This is basically what you're gonna have to do. You're gonna go ahead and remove the diffuser for now. We are gonna end up keeping it because, let me go ahead and show you guys one of the lenses. It's pretty much diffused on this side of the lens, but as soon as you get to the corner, it's pretty much see-through, which is what this is for. So we have to keep it with the strips. So there is a little base right behind it that we do have to remove because it's going to get in the way. And this is also another reason why we ended up cutting the board up to here, because it basically wouldn't fit on this side of the tail lights. So we kind of kept the brake light all the way up to here and the strips up to here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off the diffuser. It should just clip right off. Just be careful not to break it. It's very fragile. Broken a couple. And yeah, let me put the camera down. We'll need this. Okay, now we're here. I'm gonna go ahead and wipe this off. You want to make sure you clean this up because you are gonna be putting the LED strips right around the edges here. So wipe down, especially this area right here, which is where the strips are gonna go. So you guys can see it is dirty. Now the first thing we're gonna do is just go ahead and insert the base. So we are gonna run these strips from this side down that way because they are going to be sequential. So I am gonna have to cut two little slits on the base here so the cable could actually fit once we install this. There you go. So not perfect, but you guys kind of get the point. It's just to feed wires through, and then we can go ahead and now the board goes in. It's made to be a direct fit for my 2G, guys, so you guys don't have to worry about the whole fitment situation. As you guys can see, it fits really snug in there. It might scratch off a little bit of the chrome, but it's completely fine. You basically want enough space so that we can lay these strips here. So this is what it's gonna look like. Obviously we have some excess. Luckily we can cut them to spec and they'll still work. So I don't know if you guys can see, but this little white diffusion thing, you want to make sure that it's pointing outwards because that's where it's the brightest and that's what's going to illuminate towards the front of the tail light. So let me cut these real quick, cut them as best we can to make them fit snug, and then from there we'll just go ahead and kind of fit the diffuser in there and it should work just fine. Kind of see the tail light kind of start taking place. The OEM harness, if you look at the back of your taillight, this is going to be covered in tape. So you take that off and you have three wires. You have your ground, which is the black, you have your running lights, which is the green and white, and then you have your brakes and turn signals with the green wire. So the way you're going to tap this in to make this plug and play is all black wires from the strips and from the brake lights. You're going to go into the black ground wire right here. The red wires that go for the running lights are going to get tapped into the green and white wire right here, and then your brake and turn signal is going to be powered by your individual LEDs here. That's going to get tapped into your green wire, which activates every time you turn on your turn signals or your brakes. So went ahead and wired everything up. I also went ahead and added this load equalizer that is also on the kit. This is meant for hyperblink, so this gets tapped into the ground wire on the harness and on the full green wire where the brake and turns are. So this basically just, I don't know what it does, but it helps with hyperblink. You go ahead and zip tie it all together, kind of make it neat and organized so it sits back here nice and flush. This I would not place in the oven because this plastic is very fragile. I've already pretty much ruined one of these by trying that, so I keep it safe and use a heat gun. So all we have to do is heat up the centerpiece in the spots that you guys see right there, just to kind of loosen up the glue and then slowly take it apart. It's very easy to break these guys. Take your time. For some reason the Eclipse taillights are much harder to work with than the 3000 GT ones, so slow and steady, be patient, and take your time. Boom. So next step is to sand down the centerpiece lens. As you guys can see, it has some sort of paint on it. I'm sure you can use things like acetone to kind of get rid of it. I'm keeping it simple, just sanding down the edges. I know you guys can't really see, but it's a lot more see-through once you sand it down. So, you know, give it a good sanding and you should be good to start installing the strips on the centerpiece. You go ahead and just wipe down primarily the edges. We're gonna glue the LED strips right there